I'm on my way to Costco right now. I'm up way too early, but I said I was going to go to Costco this weekend, but I realized pretty quickly that it would be almost impossible to film in Costco like that at that time, because Costco in New Jersey, especially where I live, it's like that everywhere, because I think people drive further in other states, but here, there's probably like 3 Costcos within like 5 miles of my house. And if you go to any of them past like 4 o'clock or on a weekend, like the line is ridiculous. Like halfway, not even halfway, it's probably 3/4 of the way up the store. But I'm gonna break this video up into 2, but I had a topic that I wanted to talk about real quick. I think people, a lot of times, when they talk about like longevity in life, I'm not trying to be morbid here, but like when people talk about their health and they talk about longevity and trying to prolong their life, they're always talking about, you know, nutrition and exercise and your physical health. But I don't think a lot of people really talk about the mental part of that, which I personally think, and there's studies that have been done. I don't want to start citing studies, but mental stress and mental health can do just as much, if not more damage than anything that you put in your body, which is crazy. But the stress that you put on yourself can cause, it taxes the body just like anything else. When you're really stressed out, things happen, your hormones go crazy, your hair starts falling out, you know, you can lose weight because you stop eating. And that mental health, I think people don't really focus on it. It got me thinking, because earlier I was watching this video. I don't want to call people out or like mention people by name specifically. And I know people in the comments tend to do that. I can't stop you from doing that, but I'm not the type of person that likes to mention people by name unless it's something has to do with me. But I was watching a video of a YouTuber. Like I said, I watch a lot of YouTube, and this person they hadn't put out a video in like a month. I noticed it, but you know, I figured you never know with stuff like that. People are human, stuff happens. But it's a popular YouTuber. Like when I say popular, I think it's somewhere like 400 some odd thousand subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. And they hadn't put out a video in a month. I swear, these people are going 22 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour. Like, I know you're actually technically going the speed limit, but I hate New Jersey, man. Anyway, they were talking about why they took a break, and it wasn't necessarily just the physical. I guess that they got back from the doctor, they're a heavier person, and they noticed that they gained weight throughout, the last year doing videos, and that obviously their blood pressure came back high and everything. But the other part of that, they said that like the person had precursors for, diabetes, stroke, heart disease. Those are not the messages that you want to get from your doctor. I think a lot of people wait until they get that message to kind of kick it into gear. But the other part that the doctor was talking about was the mental stress. And obviously myself being a YouTuber, I can understand that part of it too. The stress of putting out content and that kind of thing. I know people that from the outside looking in will look at this and say that it's not a real job, but I've talked about this before. Anything that you do to make money, you're not doing anything illegal. It's a job at the end of the day. And it's a very volatile job from that standpoint of you don't know what your income is going to be from a monthly basis to the next. You don't know what you do when you put out a video, if it's going to bomb or not. It's entirely on the audience to dictate whether or not that video does well. And that stress sometimes because the person that I'm talking about has a family, wife, kids, that stress can put a lot on you, because you're not just doing it so you can buy a new Bugatti. You're doing it because you're trying to feed your family. And I understand that to a certain aspect, but oh my goodness, bro. I swear these people are nuts. Of course, it just started pouring as I start doing this, so I'm sorry for the rain ASMR, but he was talking about how the stress of the job and the stress that on his, it also helped. Plus, he was talking about how the stress also really got to him to the point that it affected his physical health. And this is coming from the doctor too, just as much as, his diet wasn't the best, he's eating junk food. A lot of that was stress induced, which can happen as well. And it obviously got to the point where he had to take a break and start to kind of get everything back together so that he was in a good mental state in order to make content, and also in a good physical state. So starting working out, eating better, and things like that. One of the reasons why this actually pertains to me too is a lot of times people will talk about, how I eat, which I've tried to explain as best as possible. You know, I do things that I wouldn't necessarily. You're going 40 miles an hour. I've complained 4 times on this 4-mile trip to Costco, but people speculate on my health and things like that. And I've tried to explain as best as I could kind of the measures that I take, and that I don't recommend people do this, but it's something that I do in order to make content, because you can really easily fall off the rails doing what I do. You know, if you decide, hey, I'm not going to discipline myself to eat within a certain caloric range, you can really mess yourself up. So I always tell people, don't do this. You know, people are like, oh, you can eat whatever you want. Like, you can, but you really have to be disciplined. I'm going to make a video about this. There was a guy who ate Twinkies every day and junk food, and his health numbers actually got better. His health got better from doing it because he stayed under a certain number of calories. And that's a video for another day. The funny thing to me is people seem to mention what I'm eating, but no one really talks about the mental health aspect of it. That I feel like personally, I've got my, not just my physical, but my mental under a good point. But it wasn't always like this. That there's been points in my life where I was like physically healthier as far as like my diet, but I was mentally so stressed out that I felt, and my numbers at the doctor were worse. And it's crazy that people don't really talk about that part, you know, and how much that can mess you up. But it's so serious when I say this. I know that people worry about their physical, but please take care of your mental just as much, because it's just as important. And I personally feel like I am healthier than I've ever been. You know, I just had one of my more recent doctor visits, and he's like, man, your numbers are even, because I'm in a good place mentally. And I think that's helped more than anything. There was a point in time where I was so stressed from like making content. I know people don't think so, but like when you take this seriously, you know, when you start out and you feel like it's like a rug that can get swept away from you at any time. I know people think this is such like a lucrative job, which it is. I'm not saying that you can't make money doing this, and I'm not saying, but the thing about it that has stressed me out more than anything is it's so easy to fall off in this thing. It's so easy for people to forget about you in this thing that you might, hypothetically, make $10,000 one month. I'm not saying that I do or don't or whatever it is. I'm just saying hypothetically. Say I made $10,000 one month and I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. Next month you make 0. Next month you make 1,000. Next month you make 500. And that's where you start going, okay, if you have a couple videos that do bad, you're like, okay, that's it, I'm falling off. And that's gotten to me before. But I think now I'm just at a point, you're in the middle of I hate people. I hate New Jersey. She didn't even move over, bro. I don't understand people. Like, you could at least move over. Didn't even break stride. Like, you're in the middle of, nah, bro. That's the stress that gets to me more than anything. But seriously, man, I'm not saying this because I'm some sort of health guru or anything. I just think that people sometimes need to be reminded that they need to take care of their mental just as much. And I needed to be reminded of that. Also, for me personally, like, I'm a workaholic. I spend a lot of time putting out content. I put out a lot of content across a lot of different platforms, and it takes a lot out of you as far as I don't really sleep as much. And that was something that I had to do a lot better on, is making sure that I was getting adequate sleep, which I've made a concentrated effort in the last like probably 7 or 8 months to do so. I was averaging like 2 to 3 hours of sleep for an extended period of time. And that was taking more out of me than anything. Once I started trying to sleep more, I felt better. You know, I'm not saying everybody has to get adequate sleep, but it's just as important as anything else. So if you feel like you need to drink more water, if you feel like, I wore this ring and it started tracking all of my activities. It's like an Aura ring. And I started every day for like, when I got it at first, they were like, you need to sleep more. You need to sleep more. You need to sleep more. And I've tried to make a concentrated effort on that. But this really isn't me trying to school anybody on anything, or I'm just kind of talking about how I noticed seeing it in other people, and I feel like this is just something that needs to be talked about more. Everybody's always, all these doctors, all these people on these different platforms are showing you seed oils, for example. And I'm not saying seed oils are great if you have them in mass quantities, or people are like, oh, red 40. You know what's worse than red 40? Red stress. Red, I don't sleep. Red, I need to touch grass. Red, I need to breathe more. That is more stressful to me than red 40. And I feel like people spend their time with these like tinfoil hats on of, you know, oh, well, you have to watch this and you have to watch out. But sometimes you need to just let go of the rope a little bit and stop stressing yourself out so much over things that in the long run, are they really that important? And I was guilty of that for so long. And I think it was recently, I had anxiety to the point that I was taking pills for it, like doctor prescribed pills. I'm not saying anything crazy, but like, you know, clonazepam, and this was 10 years ago. And it took another like 5 years for me to get a grasp on that and then stop taking those. I stopped taking them about 2020 because I used to get like really bad stress to the point that it would turn into panic attacks. And I think for the last 5 years, it's just me learning how to like center myself a lot more and just make sure that I keep myself as like low stress as possible. I hate the word vibration because I feel like it's one of those like buzzwords these days, so I won't use it. But I just try to keep myself like away from things that are stressful and I know they're going to stress me out. And that includes people that were around me back then that I felt like they were just a bad influence. I'm not saying that I'm the best influence. It might have been a mix of us both, but I'm sorry, I hit my mic there. There's just certain people that, you know, if you're not going to be a positive in my life, like you're just, every time you're there, you stress me out, then it is what it is. Some people can't do anything about their family, and I get that, but I'm talking more like friends, significant others, whatever. And there's just other things that I've tried to do to get my stuff back mentally right. And I'm still not perfect, but I feel like from 5 years ago to now, it's like night and day where I don't get triggered like I used to. Again, I was an angry ass kid. And, you know, I said I got in a lot of fights. I wouldn't let people talk to me a certain type of way. And that's still in me to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? But I think that now I kind of check myself before I get out and get like in my, I'm not saying I'm a fighter no more. I'm just saying before I get like mad or anything like that, because my perspective is like, in the long run, does this really matter that you're stressing about or that you're pissed about or whatever it is? So I just wanted to talk about that, man, because I think more people don't talk about this stuff. Like, it's always just like, don't eat seed oil and like go to the gym. But why? So I just wanted to talk about that, man, because I saw that video and he's kind of talking about how he's centering himself and he's kind of has to be in a good mental state so he can create content. He had to take a break, which is tough to do as a content creator. Taking a month off is like, you know how quick things change in a month. So it was good to see that from him. And I promised that if I ever got to that point, I would do the same thing, because that's more important. I want to be here for my family. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to talk about that. I've actually been in Costco parking lot for a little bit, and it's not packed because it's only like 11 in the morning. I got up earlier just to go to Costco. So I hope y'all watch that video too, which y'all like more than the Yap sessions, I think. So I'll see y'all.